Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review for another 80s horror film, and this time it is Maniac from 1980, directed by William Lustig, starring Joe Spinell, and with effects done by Tom Savini. I just say I do like this film. Now, I wouldn't call it fun, no, but I think for the job it was trying to do, it did it very well for a number of reasons. I mean, the plot is Joe Spinell, who was in Nighthawks, Rocky, among others. He is a maniac. He kills women in New York. A lot of times with the dead bodies, he scalps them, puts them on mannequins in his home. You get a little bit of knowledge of that he was abused by his mother. And at one point, he has a little bit of a lovey-dovey thing with Caroline Munro, who's the female lead of the film. Well, the true lead is Joe Spinell. It's most of the scenes are with him. And like I said, for the job it's trying to do, it does it effectively. Jay Chataway's music fits the film well. William Lustig, I think he directed a very grimy, dirty, unsettling flick that does make you creeped out, which is the purpose. But at the same time, I think this movie does have more merit than, say, a Serbian film or Martyrs or Two Girls, One Cup. Because that might as well be a movie if you want to call a Serbian film a movie. Like, this is an actual movie because, like, Joe Spinell, I think he does a fantastic job in his lead performance. Because it's hard to say you feel sorry for him, but it's just, you can tell there's a lot going on in the head of this guy when he talks to himself, and you get little sprinkles of his life by his verbiage and what he says during these little monologues he has. And Joe Spinell was always a good actor. He just really didn't get a lot of chances to shine. And that's kind of one of the great things about this. Joe Spinell really gets the chance to shine. And I like the way New York looks. Like I said, it looks grimy and dirty and uneasy and dangerous. You know, the subways and the streets. I mean, I haven't been to New York. I'm sure they cleaned it up now. But back then, it was definitely a lot more... It seemed a lot more dangerous back then. And I thought the film really captured that feel to it. And then, of course, the effects by Tom Savini are fantastic. I mean, whether it be the slow opening and ripping of the scalp. Tom Savini himself plays a victim with him and his girl in a car, and Joe Spinell's character blows Tom Savini's head off with a double-barrel shotgun, which is one of the goriest and craziest head explosions in movie history. One woman that Joe Spinell's character chases on the subway and stabs her through the back. And like I said, what really hinges on this film to me is Joe Spinell's performance, and if it's done well, then I can't do anything else but appreciate it. And it's funny, watching it again, I used to have a problem with, how could Caroline Munro buy having dinner with this guy? But when I watch it again, Joe Spinell is actually not being over-the-top creepy when he's with Caroline Munro. He's trying to be charming, just trying to talk about himself. His voice isn't going over the top, or, come have dinner with me, bitch. If he was doing that, then I'm like, why the fuck would Caroline Munro... I mean, as a friend of mine said, yeah, he's a schlep of a man. But at the same time, you think of, Joe Spinell in real life, would I be saying that about the real person because of the way he looked? No. And it's his behavior that he's behaving like a decent guy when he's with Caroline Munro. Of course, by the end, that doesn't last. And Caroline Munro escapes. And then you have that ending where he's been stabbed, I believe by Caroline Munro, and he comes home and he imagines these mannequins coming to life and beating the bodies of his victims and tearing them apart. A very graphic, gory finale. And then it kind of ends in a sequel bait ending where the cops find it, and for some stupid fucking reason, they don't check his pulse. They don't leave a cop there. It's like, okay, stay here till I get the ambulance, or check his pulse, check his neck, check pulse here. 2 cops just fucking leave the room, and then Joe Spinell opens his eyes and is like, well, shit. If he gets away, those 2 cops should be fucking fired in 2 seconds flat. Because those are 2 of the worst cops in film history. But like I said, I mean, I don't know if this will be a long review, because the movie really does speak for itself. Again, I think the direction is pretty spot on for capturing the... They made New York feel dangerous. Like, man, I don't want to ever go to New York if it's like Maniac. Speaking of the direction, for example, in the subway scene when the woman looks at the stairs where someone goes down to go into the subway, the camera will like push in step by step, like to reveal Joe Spinell going down the stairs. For example, that was a interesting directing technique. And Joe Spinell is the MVP of the film, his performance, then the gore effects. Because Joe Spinell, I mean, just the weirdness this guy does. Like, he handcuffs himself to a mannequin because he doesn't want her to... You gotta stop or they'll take you away from me. So he handcuffs himself to the mannequin and then sleeps. Or he brushes the mannequin's hair, which is a scalp that he's put on there. He's like, you want to look pretty, right? Pretty for me. He just played a very unsettling character, which is what the Maniac should be. Now, I do like the Maniac remake with Elijah Wood. I was actually surprised by that. I liked how a good chunk of that film is POV, and I thought Elijah Wood did a very solid job, and that also has some pretty crazy gore. And that's a way of a remake being done well. But this, I mean, I'm just repeating myself here, so I'll end it. But again, Joe Spinell's performance, I think, is top-notch. The gore effects are insane. And like, hard to watch. And Tom Savini was on his A game during this time. This is when, Friday the 13th, and then The Burning was around the corner, and before that he did Dawn of the Dead. Carolyn Monroe, she did fine. The Jay Chataway's music, like I said, fits the film well. It has that creepy, uneasy demeanor to it, with the atmosphere and almost a sense of dread. But at the same time, I do look at it as a movie, unlike a Serbian film or Martyrs or some of this other crap that I think those are more akin to Two Girls, One Cup, and we're going to shock people and assume we're a movie and we're art. No, this movie to me has, and William Lustig has proved he's a good director with Maniac, Cop, among other movies. So, and the DVD is pretty good. I know it's on Blu-ray, but this DVD is the 30th anniversary, has quite a few features, has 2 commentary tracks, interview with star Carolyn Monroe, interview with Tom Savini, interview with Jay Chataway, interview with songwriters Michael Sembello and Dennis Mikowski, because there was always a rumor that that song, Maniac, Maniac, for Flashdance, was supposed to be in this, and they kind of say, no, that's not really true. That at one point, not really for the film, but at one point they were going to do a crazy song on Maniac, called Maniac. It's like, he will skin your cat and nail it to the door. But from what I understood in the interview, it was never really meant for this movie. It was just, they had a song called Maniac that had crazy lyrics. And maybe that rumor got around, and then someone said, oh, it just got associated with this because this was called Maniac. Trailer TV spots. And then a little promo reel for Mr. Robbie Maniac 2, which would have been interesting to see, where it had no connection to this other than Joe Spinell would have starred in it as a host of I believe a kid show, and he would paint himself look like a clown, Mr. Robbie, and he would get these letters from abused kids, and he would hunt down the abusive parents and kill them. And I think that would have been interesting to see Joe Spinell play that. In fact, you could do that today. You don't have to call Maniac Cop 2. Maniac Cop. You don't have to call Maniac 2. Although Maniac Cop 2 is a great movie. You don't have to call Maniac 2. You could call any other movie, but you could do that. A children's TV host who's hunting abusive parents. I think... you can let me know if there's been a movie where that's been done. Because if not, hey, someone write the script and get that made. I think some people would enjoy it. I know I'd be curious about it. Also on the second disc, there's the Joe Spinell story, which is a little documentary on Joe Spinell himself. Rest in peace, Joe Spinell. But yeah, very violent, very graphic, and that poster is a pretty, I wouldn't say iconic poster, because when you put this poster, people know what it is, and pretty freaked out by it. To the point that some people ripped it off, like Eli Roth and some of the Hostel, or was it Hostel 2 posters overseas, he ripped this off. That piece of shit film Gutter Balls ripped this cover off. This film is a lot better than Gutter Balls. Like, if you want trash, that's trash. But this, to me, is a legitimately solid movie that just happens to be very gory. And Joe Spinell definitely give kudos to his performance. You're definitely uneased about him. And he had the right look, the right voice for it. But either way, thanks for watching, take care, and stay tuned for more reviews of 80s horror films later.